This video shows a new feature in version 11 that allows you to bind arguments in Action Javascript to the result of a JavaScript function. So you can see here that we have a very simple button, and when I open up the button, we're using Action JavaScript, and in this case we're opening a custom component. But these comments apply equally well to whether your Action JavaScript is opening up another grid or a dialog or a report. In all of those use cases, you typically have arguments in the child component, and you're going to be setting the value of those arguments to a value from the current row in the grid. So in this case we're opening up a custom component called custom component args, and this custom component has an argument called arg1, and you can see here that we've gone over here and we've said that arg1 gets its value from, say, the last name field. So if I close this down now and then click OK and then hit save and then go over to working preview, I'm on, say, David Mesner. I open up the custom component and you can see the value of arg1 is Mesner, and if I were to go here to, say, Korea, the value of arg1 is Korea. So this pattern of binding an argument value to the value of a field in the current row is very common in Alpha 5 version 10 and also version 11. But what I'm going to demonstrate here is how you can bind the argument not to the value of a single field but to any arbitrary JavaScript function. So I'm going to go back now to design mode and bring up the builder, and now where it says bind argument 1, instead of binding it to the field called last name, you can see now there's a new option here that says to set the argument to the result of a JavaScript function, enter JavaScript colon and then the function name. So I'm going to go here and type in JavaScript colon func1. So basically what I'm saying is call a JavaScript function that I'm going to define called func1 to get the value that you'd like to bind to this argument value. And if you click here, it gives you a little bit more help on that function declaration. So the function that you define takes row num as an input parameter. So I'm going to go there and click OK now, and then click OK now again over here, and then go over to my JavaScript function declarations, and you can see here I've already defined my function. I've defined a function called func1. It takes as an input row num, and then you can see that inside the function I'm just using the get value method of the grid object to pick out the first name value from the current row, then add in a space, and then the last name value from the current row, and then my function returns data. So if I now go and run this, when I click, say, on this row there, previously it just said last name, so it had Regan, but now you can see I've got Jason Regan, which is the result of my JavaScript function. So what I've shown here is how Action JavaScript now lets you bind an argument value to the result of an arbitrary JavaScript function, and this is useful throughout Action JavaScript in all of the actions where you bind an argument to a value in the current row, and so that would include opening grids, opening custom components, opening dialogs, and opening reports. Thanks very much.